All right, let's jump right in, shall we? Van Staal fishing pliers.
Uh-huh.
I know, almost legendary, right? But we're going deep today. We're going to figure out why these things are practically royalty among serious anglers. Durability, precision, maybe a little bit of fishing voodoo thrown in.
Well, I think that voodoo might have something to do with their reels. They sort of had a cult following early on, especially for saltwater. Those Van Staal reels, they were like tanks.
And that rep, that like hardcore built to last thing, they kind of carried over to the pliers.
It definitely seems that way. And you're spot on about the material. Titanium. It's kind of a big deal in this world.
But just how big a deal is it? Is it all hype or is there real substance to it?
Oh, there's substance, all right. It's strong, it's light, sure. But the real star of the show, corrosion resistance. I mean, we're talking saltwater, freshwater, you name it. You could leave them in your tackle box for months, even years, and they just won't rust.
Okay, so for someone who might not be a metallurgist or whatever, break that down. Why is that such a game changer? I mean, my pliers, they rust eventually. It's a fact of life, right?
Right, exactly. And with regular steel, that rust eats away at it, the joints get all stiff, and then boom, they give out. Especially in saltwater, you're constantly fighting that battle. But titanium, nah, it's like it laughs in the face of rust. So with Van Staal, you're buying pliers that'll last like years, maybe even decades, even if you're using them hard.
That's a strong argument.
Yeah.
But what about the actual mechanics? How do they actually work? We keep hearing about this precision grip. What sets them apart from, just any old pair of pliers?
It's the design. It's kind of genius, really. The jaws are machined just so, with this specific angle and shape. It gives you crazy leverage and control. And unlike some pliers where the jaws slip or twist when you put the pressure on, Van Staal's, they're solid, rock solid. You can really go to town on something and they won't fail you.
So it's not just about being strong, but actually being designed to give you more control over whatever you're gripping or cutting, I guess.
Bingo. And speaking of cutting, we got to talk about those cutters.
Right. Those replaceable cutters. That seems to be a big deal. Is that a common thing with pliers?
Not really, especially at this level, but it makes sense, right? Even the best cutters get dull eventually, and if you're cutting a lot of braid, well, that'll wear them down fast. But with Van Staal's, swap them out, and you're good to go. No need to buy a whole new pair.
So it all ties back to that longevity thing. You're not just buying them for a season or two. You're investing in something that's meant to last. But let's be real, they're not exactly cheap, are they?
True. Van Staal's, they're an investment, for sure, but I think it's important to understand what you're actually paying for.
Yeah, it's not just the materials, or even the features. There's something about Van Staal pliers. It's like heritage, maybe? Craftsmanship. They're almost a piece of fishing history in a way.
That's funny you say that. I was reading some forums and reviews, and people talk about their Van Staal's almost like their family heirlooms or something. Like some people have had the same pair for 20 years.
Yes.
You run into that? Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think that says a lot, Anglers really connect with their gear, especially a tool that's been with them through, well, everything. Countless fishing trips, those big catches, maybe even a few fishtails, right? It's more than just a tool. It's a part of their story.
That's a cool way to put it. But I also get the sense that there's a kind of status symbol thing going on with Van Staal's. Like you pull these out of your tackle box and suddenly you're in a different league.
There's definitely some of that, yeah. I think part of it's their history. Van Staal was one of the first with the high-end saltwater gear. And a lot of the top anglers, the guides, they all used them. So there's that association with expertise, a commitment to quality.
And I bet for some people, it's about knowing that your tool, it's not going to fail you when it matters, right? Like you got a trophy fish on the line. You don't want your pliers to give out at the worst possible moment.
Exactly. It's peace of mind, right? Knowing your gear won't let you down.
Yeah.
And that confidence, well, it makes the whole experience better.
Now, all this sounds great, but we got to be honest here. The price. These things can cost, what, like $300? That's a big chunk of change for most people. Is there really nothing else out there that comes close to that Van Staal quality and performance, but, without the sticker shock?
There are other high-quality pliers, yeah. Some even specialize in certain types of fishing. But that combination, Van Staal's materials, the design, and that reputation, that's tough to beat. And think about it this way. Their lifespan, it could be decades. So the cost per year, actually pretty reasonable.
So it's about thinking long term, not just about that initial hit to the wallet. If these things last 10, 20, even 30 years, it changes the math a bit, huh?
Exactly. It's an investment. in your fishing future. And you got to factor in the satisfaction of using a tool that's this well made. It just elevates the whole thing.
Okay, so we've covered the durability, the design, the price. You mentioned different types of fishing line earlier, and I'm curious how that plays into all this.
Good point. Different lines, they have different properties, and that changes how you have to cut them. Monofilament, for example, it's just a single strand of nylon. Pretty easy to cut. Fluorocarbon, it's a little tougher, but most pliers can handle it. But braid, oh man, braid is a whole different animal.
Okay, break that down for me. What makes braid so tough to cut?
It's how it's made. Braided line, it's multiple strands of polyethylene fibers all woven together. It makes it super strong, abrasion resistant, great for fishing, but cutting it. With regular pliers, it can be a nightmare. It tends to fray, instead of cutting clean, and it can really dull your cutters fast.
So are you saying that Van Staal pliers are actually designed to handle that super tough braided line?
Absolutely. The cutters, the shape, the angle, plus the overall strength of the pliers. It's perfect for cutting braid clean and efficient. No more of that crushed or frayed mess you get with some pliers.
That makes sense. So if you're someone who uses braid a lot, Van Staals would be a good investment, just from a line cutting perspective.
Yeah, I'd say so. They take all the hassle out of braid, which can be a real pain for some people. And that brings us back to that idea, They're more than just a tool. It's almost like they become part of your style, How you fish, your approach, the whole thing. It's like they say, you get what you pay for, right?
Yeah, I'm definitely starting to get it. There's a lot to appreciate here. It's not just hike. Van Staal earned their reputation. But I do have one last thing. We talked about durability lasting for decades, even heirlooms, right?
Yeah.
Is it really realistic to think of these pliers as something you could pass down, like to the next generation of anglers in the family?
I don't see why not. Imagine, you're on a trip with your kid, your son or daughter.
Yeah.
And you hand them your Van Staals, a little beat up maybe, some scratches from years of use. And you tell them about all the fish you caught, all the memories. You're passing on a piece of your fishing legacy, I guess.
Wow, that's pretty powerful. Way more than just a tool, right? It's the stories, the connection, sharing that passion for fishing.
That's it, exactly. And who knows, maybe those pliers, they get passed down again to the grandkids and so on. Pretty cool to think about.
Yeah, it really is. So for anyone listening, anyone intrigued by these Van Staals, maybe even a little overwhelmed by it all, what's the one thing you want them to remember?
I'd say this. If you're looking for pliers that are built to last, perform like a dream, and maybe even become part of your story down the line, Van Staals are worth a look. Do your research, see if they fit your style, your budget. But one thing's for sure, they've earned their place in the fishing world.
Well said. And hey, if you do decide to take the plunge, maybe start thinking about who you might pass them down to one day.
Good idea. Tight lines, everyone.